Now, what I'm going to do before I start talking about real estate investment, I'm going to talk with you about, I'm going to finish off talking with you about buying and selling a home. Because I want you to understand that there are three major players in the general home buying process. There's the real estate agent, and the real estate agent, whether the agent is a good agent or a not so good agent, if the real estate agent doesn't earn a commission, he or she can't feed his own family. That's how the business works. So the real estate agents do want to earn a commission. And I often say that it's not so much the agents who deliberately set out to be dishonest. What it is that the systems, you cannot possibly be honest if you're asked to follow a system that requires you to be dishonest. And there are people who work with me that I'm very close to that will actually say, yes, that's what they used to have to do. They did these things because that was part of the procedure. So it's more the systems, but nevertheless, the systems do corrupt people. The other thing that you have is you have the sellers. And what is the seller's role in the process? If the agent's role is to get the commission and keep their business alive, what's the seller's role? The seller's role, and I'll tell you now, and make no apologies for saying this, the seller's role is to get the very best price. The seller's role is one of money, getting the best market price. If you sell your home today for $500,000 and in 10 years' time it's worth $1 million, you can't go knocking on the door and say, look, that house I sold you went up, can I have a little bit? No. It's your last chance to get anything from it. So you do focus on the price when you're selling, and well, you should. Now, buyers. A lot of people think that buyers, their role is to buy at the cheapest price they possibly can. That's not the case at all. Buying a family home is one that is done generally through emotion. In fact, all the time through emotion. And most home buyers will not mind, in fact, will gladly pay a little bit extra if it's the home that they love. And particularly if they're treated well through the process and they know they're going to be in that house for a long time. Having said that, though, that doesn't mean that buyers will just go out there and just splurge willy-nilly. I put it to you this way, that buying is done with the heart and selling is done with the wallet, okay? But watch out for your heart and watch out for what your heart really wants. Now, there's a difference between what somebody wants and what somebody needs, and there is something really incredible happening to us today in our society. I used to talk about this in the 80s in real estate to young couples about how much they were going to commit themselves. What are you doing? And particularly first home buyers, and maybe even more of you because of Sydney and its real estate. It's almost becoming like a real estate sin city. It's so fixated on real estate. What are you doing? When you go out to look for a loan, one of the first things you do is try and figure out how much you can borrow. What you do is you go out and you say, how much is the bank going to give me? Or how much will the credit union give me? Give? Excuse me, lend. Okay, remember this, you are buying the money and you have to pay back and you will have to... Mortgage, the word mortgage actually comes from the French, which means agreement until death. Okay, so what you do is you go out there and you'll find a lending institution that'll lend you 320. And you'll have 50,000, which is 370. And you might have access to the first homeowners grant or something, which is 377. You'll go out looking for homes up to, say, 400,000. Okay? And you will mortgage yourself right up to here. And what you will do is you will, and I'll knock off the points for this. I'll knock off the points because I can't get my head around points of a person and points of a bedroom. But what we have in our society today, the average size of the average home is 4 bedrooms. The average number of people living in the average home is 2. 102 years ago in the 1901 Federation Census, it was the exact opposite. 2-bedroom homes with 4 people living in them. Right now, what we have each night in Australia tonight are 6 million empty bedrooms. That's what we've got. And 138,000 people homeless, if you wanted to know anyway, but which just is kind of incredible. So what you have is you have big mortgages, and you've got to get up early in the morning to drive to work, both of you, to earn a big income, to pay a big mortgage on a big home that you've got to leave empty all day because you've got to go to work to pay for it. And it kind of doesn't make sense. And what you're thinking is, oh, if I have a 4th bedroom, if I have this, or if I live on this side of the Pacific Highway, if I live in East Linfield, that'll be better than West Linfield. What does the pillow know? We're talking about home ownership, not home loanership. That's what we're talking about. So I ask you constantly, and I say this to you, focus on what you need rather than what you want. Last year, the Weekend Australian did a a report, and it said the top 100 homes that were sold in Australia. Priced homes. Guess what? Sydney Talkback Radio was going crazy with people saying, oh, 85 of those homes were in Sydney. Well, if you haven't already figured out by now, there's one thing I do that a lot of people tend to forget to do in our society is I ask questions and I look beyond. Of those 85 top homes that were Sydney had 85%. Do you know the reason most of those homes sold? Financial or matrimonial problems. That's what sold the house. How is it that you see so many movie stars and so many famous people on drugs and suicide and unhappy marriages and divorces? It's because you all think, they do think that when I get lots of money and lots of wealth, I will be happier. But it's just not working like that. The World Health Organization has forecast that by the year 2020, the leading cause of death in the Western world will be depression. And I'll tell you why it is. Because we're getting older and we're all into, and so much ego in the world. You know, so much, oh, look at me, this is, touch me up with the makeup, is the hair okay? Oh, I've got a bald spot. Oh, for goodness sake! You know, there is nothing I can do about my age and there's nothing I can do about my height. Nothing. You know, I'm 5'8". I'm probably 5'7" because we add on an inch or two, us fellas, that's what we do. All right? But our whole aim in life, and Aristotle, who was not an agent, for those of you who don't know anything, right? Aristotle made a magnificent discovery thousands of years ago. He said the aim of every person in the world and the motivation, the reason we do everything is because we want to be happy. When the criminal Chopper Reed chops his ears off, he chops his ears off because he believes that he will be happier as a result of cutting his ears off. When a criminal commits a robbery, they do it because the money and so on is going to make them happier. And Aristotle figured it out. And I'm not here to preach to you. I'm just saying to you that this has helped me so much. Figured it out that everybody in the world wants to be happy. Only the good can be happy and only the virtuous can be good. So you look at the virtues and say, how do you live to try and be a good person? When you do that, it's pretty tough. But you know what? You go through life a lot better. You realize that we're getting older and we're going somewhere. You know, you baby boomers, let me tell you, people ask me about booms, and I'll talk about finance and investments and stuff in a moment. They ask about booms, and I'm pretty good at predicting, okay? I can't predict the exact date, but I'm pretty good at predicting. Although I can predict one boom, baby boomers, if there was a baby boom, there's going to be a funeral boom. And I know that really upsets so many of you, okay? In fact, it's a fact. In 2016, the baby boomers start going, right? The funeral industry got it all worked out. They're waiting for us, okay? So you have got, what, 13 years to try and get yourselves right. And men, what often happens with us men, as we get older, we get grumpier and grumpier. So much so that, you know, we put all these demands on our wives and everything like that, and we look at her and sort of, you know, it's like the joke, isn't it? She says, oh, look at me, I'm grey, I'm fat and ugly, can you give me a compliment? So he says, oh, yeah, well, your eyesight's okay. No! You don't do that because you love her as she is. So that when you actually have to go, the funeral director will be sad to see you go. Instead of, oh, the old goat's gone now I can get on with my life. So what happens is we think that we get a bigger mortgage, we get a bigger loan, we get bigger bedrooms, we get bigger cars, and it's all going to make us happier. It doesn't work like that. This is a thing from literature that I've got, okay? Home life ceases to be free and beautiful as soon as it is founded on borrowing and debt. Now, I believe in home ownership, not home loanership, okay? I believe in it so much that I can tell you now that one of the goals in life should be to get your own home fully paid for, no mortgage, paid off. And there's people out there, and I'll show you in a moment, that'll tell you, oh, use the equity in your home and so on. Excuse me, you pay off your home. I was told years and years ago that you should never count your own home in your assets. For instance, let's say you've got a house in Sydney now, which is worth $1 million, okay? You think you're a millionaire? No, you're only a millionaire if you sell it and you become homeless. You've got to live somewhere. And the first thing that we need, and you can go back and study heaps of things, and I know the purists and some of the accountants and the financial planners and anybody that's had a charisma or personality bypass will disagree with this, but the first thing that you need is you need to get that home totally paid for, paid off, so that when you tuck your children into bed at night, or chuck your children into bed, whatever. When you tuck your children into bed, when you're elderly and you've got not well and you've got a hot water bottle, you know that your home is unencumbered and fully paid for. That is a huge goal to have, and the feeling of having that is great. And when you're young, you work hard. You take sometimes extra jobs and you do these sorts of things. Look, with two people having to support a mortgage, this is interesting, isn't it, where we're headed in our society, and 50% of people divorcing, what do you think is going to happen eventually? The amount of debt that people have these days, they reckon that the average family is one paycheck away from bankruptcy. Our savings records are just appalling. Here in Sydney, the stress level for mortgages, by the way, is supposed to be 30%. We've just gone past 40% of our income being spent on our home mortgages. And and the bedrooms are empty, and we're fighting with each other. Look, here's the thing that households may pay for debt binge. A $2,000 a month commitment may be fine if the family's wage earners are employed, but if one or both lose their jobs, that might become unsustainable. A significant number of households have chosen a debt level which makes sense in good times but does not take into account that bad times inevitably will occur. Now, I'm not preaching doom. I'm saying, one of my favourite sayings that I tell myself in my head is this is good. If ever you're feeling unhappy, you say, this too shall pass. And if things are good, you say, this too shall pass. And you should always ask yourself the what-if question. Ida Buttrose, she's written a lovely little book, something about money and finances, and in there she says, put things through the what-if test. But what we do is we've got all these salespeople out there selling us money, selling us debt, telling us that we can have tomorrow's pleasures today at today's prices. And what we do is we mortgage our futures. I'm telling you, we do. And they've actually shown it makes you sick. In England, they had this thing. An Englishman's home is now his casualty ward. So you don't get it. I have 5 children, and the 2 littlest ones will be 2 on Saturday. They're twins. I got actually photographs of them here, because in case you were grumpy, I could look at them. But when they were born, this is what I did, and the doctor said, nobody's ever said that. When the doctor handed me these twins, I looked at them. He said, what do you think, Mr. Jenman? And I said, look at them, debt-free. And yet we have so many people that their aim in life is to be out of debt by the time they're 50 or 60. Well, that's how you were when you were born. You come into life and go backwards? Doesn't kind of make sense. Anyhow, and let me tell you, you are going to be okay. A lot of people are scared about their retirement, or the government's not going to be able to do this. Let me tell you, 95% of the things we worry about have already happened to us or are never going to happen anyway. And we spend all this time worrying, and so that makes us victim for all these people that will come along and say, ooh, let me show you how you can be rich. You can be just like me. I'm rich. Yeah, I wish they had a thing on a happiness level, because that should be the richest person on a happiness level. Most of us spend most of our lives worrying about money, our weight, and our looks. How pathetic. Anyhow, let me talk to you about this bit of negotiation. An agent will say, you'll never be offered more than the fixed price you ask. Well, that's not true. Here's how you negotiate ethically. You have a truthful asking price for your property that you wish to sell. Now, a truthful asking price means a price you will accept if that's the best price that you're offered. Each buyer, if there's more than one buyer, declares their best price. And you decide which one you'll accept. Now, I have to tell you, I am not clever enough to figure out many of the things I tell you. It comes from my reading and my learning. The man who worked out this system of socially fair negotiation won the Nobel Prize for Economics in 1996. So I took what he did and adapted it to real estate. It's really that simple. Here's how it would work. Take that property at Maroubra. Here's what should have happened. Remember, the reserve was $850? The asking price could have been $1 million. The church wanted to buy it, and so did other people. What you do is you say each buyer must declare their best price. Buyer 2 declares $1,010,000. The church declares $1,500,000, and it's all over Red Rover. It is done. Now, there's more about that on our website. I have, people say to me, why don't I sell my books here? And the reason I don't sell my books here is because I said there's nothing to sell here.